How much?
How much what?
How much money would it take to prove your theory?
John Crowley simply wants to save his children. And the character that I play wants to create a drug to mitigate this disease.
Was he worth it? A Stonehill guy?
He's really eccentric, but his science is way ahead of everybody else's. He's definitely the one to put his money on.
If we had any.
I said I'd have a check ready for him.
How much?
500.
That's all?
1,000.
Is it 500 or 1,000?
500,000. By next month.
Sweetheart, are you totally insane?
Apparently.
Simply, it's a story about hope, about a family who don't lose hope. And that all comes from the real Crowley family.
He said, I don't want it to be a sad, feel bad for yourself kind of film. That's not who these people are. They're, they make the most of the day. They're funny. They embrace their situation and they keep going.
John is a remarkable person. It's the power of his love for his kids and his ability to move other people to join him.
I feel really privileged to be doing my take of who he is as a character that's brought to a screen.
Bringing the kids on the movie was just an incredible experience. To have the uniqueness and specialness of a movie made about them, they get it, and they're excited.
It's just so crazy to believe all this is happening because of us. I'm like, it's just us. And all of this craziness is going on out here. It's amazing. But they were, I think, overwhelmed.
Just want to introduce our real Megan and Patrick and John Jr. that are here today.
At a certain point, you must just get so frustrated with the, healthcare and with the doctors, and you're switched to so many different doctors, and you just think there's got to be something more to do.
I mean, do we just accept our fate and do what we're told by all the well-meaning doctors and wait for the worst to happen? Or do we fight it?
He found a maverick, apparently quite irascible doctor.
Nobody's gonna tell me how to run my lab.
He's a pain in the ass. He's a guy who really believes in what he's doing. He's very passionate about his work.
I'm tired of begging breadcrumbs from the university and giving them the patents to my ideas, which is why I'm setting up my own shop. Figure any dude in a business suit can help me raise venture capital and run the company, but who's going to be half as motivated as a dad who's trying to save his own kids? And with the right business plan, I can also promise you a working enzyme for Pompe disease. I can't cure your kids, but I think I can save their lives. Outstanding cobbler.
Out of necessity, out of desperation, they form a corporation to manufacture a drug.
The odds against you are crushing. 9 out of 10 biotechs crash and burn. So where does that leave your kids when their dad is flat broke, with no job, and no health insurance?
Pete, you're right. This is crazy. I'm chasing the wind. But I can't just sit around and wait for my kids to die. They both respect one another's strengths. There are things that they absolutely detest about one another too, but they each have a common goal. We can do this, Bob. All right? We work harder. We push ourselves. We work around the clock.
I already work around the clock!
Great! Spend the rest of your life dreaming up great ideas and don't get funded. Drop brilliant diagrams on the wall that cure diseases in theory, but never help a single human being in reality.
John Crowley's challenged by time constraints and money constraints. The urgency on their side is significant, and that urgency is imposed on Stonehill.
It was important for me in the telling of this story that we see John as a character who has flaws and and who makes mistakes.
He gets tempted to do things that are a little bit on the sly if he has to, but it's all in the name of doing what he feels is best for his family.
Aquí tus trailers. Visita mi canal.
Hold it, pal.
Yes, his motivation, the reason he's doing everything, I think is something that I don't think anyone would question. But you see that there are other sides to the story.
Do you have any idea what you've done?
You've jeopardized your chances of ever getting your kids treated.
We are so fortunate to have Tom Vaughn. He works incredibly well with actors.
He will give really helpful direction. And he also, in the best way possible, knows when to stand back and just let his actors sort it out.
He's got a perfect sense of tone and subtlety and emotion as opposed to sentimentality.
I have great confidence in what Tom Vaughn is doing. He's very clear about what it is that he's trying to do. I'm very pleased with our results.
What grade are you in?
I'm in 3rd. My hobbies are video games and penguins. How about you?
I already graduated.
God. What I always want my actors to feel is that they can make mistakes, that they can try something. It doesn't matter if it's wrong or if it doesn't work, that we can try it another way, and to have the confidence to do that, and have the confidence at times to go for it. If it's an emotional scene, really go for it.
They come in for a couple $100 grand, and you give them the option of jumping in as a full partner later?
If you hadn't accidentally gone sabotaged our meeting with them, I wouldn't have had to do something like this.
I think most directors will tell you it's a huge part of the acting in a movie is down to casting. You got to choose the right people. The right people for this movie happened to be Harrison Ford and Brendan Fraser and Kerry Russell, so we got lucky.
We went about trying to find the right man to play John Crowley. We were very fortunate in getting Brendan Fraser, who's a very fine actor.
Brendan brings understanding and great capacity to the telling of this story.
Do the math, Bob. Either we sell the company, we get a huge cash infusion, or they pull the plug.
I think it's a great role for Harrison. He's able in this movie to be very difficult at times and not always do the right thing, and so I feel like it's something I haven't seen him do before.
I think he was looking for a part that actually had a lot of meaning, and so he's been very involved with the development of the story.
Harrison is the actor who I was inspired by as a child, like so many legions of young actors were.
Harrison is great, and he's so, obviously, he's Harrison Ford, and it's so cool. And he's been wonderful.
I've thoroughly enjoyed working with him, and I naturally feel like I'm better for it.
Maybe you should have valued my opinion a little sooner instead of playing hatchet man for the bean counters.
It's in your interest.
Get out of my lab.
Don't you want the benefit of knowing if or not one of the enzymes...
Go on, get out.
One of the things that was very important to Harrison was the authenticity of the science.
The real interesting thing about science is that it happens up here. There are expressions of it. You can write out equations and diagrams and you can talk about it. But it really, for me, was required that I understand the processes that we were talking about.
This construct's looking pretty good, but I gotta get better cleavage between the alpha and the beta subunits.
He's rewritten the scientific language so it's completely accurate, and he will sound to real scientists like a real scientist. That's how methodical and serious an actor he is.
Jersey, you know what a sibling study is?
No.
It's a drug trial with just 2 patients with the same genetic inheritance.
Max and Patrick.
I could draw up a protocol and see if I can find a hospital willing to administer it.
Wow.
Well, don't get your hopes up, kid. It's a Hail Mary.
This story of these 2 parents is incredible. I mean, to never stop and to just keep seeking literally a cure is incredible. It's about not giving up and committing to those that you love, and who wouldn't do that for someone they love?
It had something to say about the power to overcome extraordinary circumstances.
The story speaks to anyone who's ever felt like they would do anything for their kid, no matter what.
What you've given us is hope.
Not gonna kiss me, is he?
I will restrain him.
We received Megan's diagnosis probably about 9 months of age. They told us it was a very serious disease. They told us it was a fatal disease. And we got the call a couple of days afterwards that Patrick, who is only 7 days old, also had Pompe disease. So within the span of those first couple of months, learned we had 2 kids who probably wouldn't live to be 2. Pompe is a rare genetic disease. The kids, because of their genetic defect, they can't break down sugar. If you were diagnosed with Pompe disease, absent a treatment, you will die from your disease. Megan got profoundly sick. She had to go on a ventilator. She was in the hospital for 6 weeks. Her heart stopped 3 times in those 6 weeks. But she's a tough little kid. I remember looking at Megan and into those big brown eyes of hers, and she was scanning the room, and she kind of locked on to me, and then she locked on to Eileen. And, you know, I think those little eyes, you know, they told us a lot. And I think they told us that she didn't want to quit, that she wanted to fight. And I think from that moment on, we both knew she wanted to fight, so we would too. We grew increasingly frustrated with the pace of research, with always seeming like we were out of the loop. And eventually, out of desperation, Eileen and I decided that we'd try to help take the lead in the quest for a treatment or cure. And I went in the next day and told my boss that I'm going to step away from a secure job, and you know, the pay and the stability for us, the health insurance, all of that, and take a chance on starting a business.
I had a lot of confidence in John, and I knew that if he was comfortable and had done the research and had done the homework and knew he could do this, I just needed to give him my full support.
I had very, very limited experience in the medical world, and there were tough times. There were times where we were frustrated, times where the kids were so very sick, and times we just wanted to let nature take its course. But eventually we saw some very positive signs, and that was just so amazingly exciting. Then, of course, you start to think, okay, how can I quickly get Megan and Patrick on it? Because I was an executive of the company developing the drug, hospital review boards were not comfortable with my kids being in a clinical study. So I made it easy for them. I quit my job. I remember the day the kids were first infused. I got to press the infusion button to start Megan's infusion. Eileen got to press Patrick's. We hadn't seen her smile in 2 years. After the first couple of months, we started to notice that she was smiling again. So that was the first sign to me that there's some hope. And then we went for the 12-week review. And I remember telling Megan, this means, Megan, that your heart's getting better. And it means you're going to live to be an old lady. And then she looked at me and kind of gave me a thumbs up and just threw her arm around me and said thank you. So that's the house on the left, Megan, right there. That green one with the tents around it.
Hey guys, listen up. We just want to introduce our real Megan and Patrick and John Jr. that are here today.
John is a remarkable person. It's the power of his love for his kids to overcome extraordinary, difficult circumstances.
John's the kind of guy who said, no is not acceptable. I'm going to find a way to turn no into a maybe and then maybe into yes.
People always say, how do you do it? I'm like, how do you do it? How do you not? I think most people in this position would do what they could to make their kids happy.
I think I did my job. As a dad, I did what I had to do. And I don't think that makes you a hero.